What's up, Black Clover fans? We've officially entered madness territory. Chapters 384 through 386 just dropped, and this might be the most chaotic, awe-inspiring stretch of the entire series so far. Yami Sukihiro, our chain-smoking goat, just did the unthinkable, forming a contract with Adramalech. Yeah, you heard that right. The man who's been walking the line between darkness and humanity for years finally took a step into full-on devilhood, and it's not just some edgy power-up. It's a game changer, but that's not all. True Devil Union is back, and it's on a whole new level. The way Tabata framed this reveal, the intensity, the aura, the sheer insanity of what it means for the balance of power, feels like this series has hit a second wind. The art, insane. The tension, off the charts. The stakes, almost cosmic. And then there's Yuno, our golden boy, just hit true Saint stage, making him one of the purest and most terrifying forces in the Clover Kingdom right now. Across these 3 chapters, every character is pushed to the edge, Yami embracing light to protect his darkness, Yuno transcending the spirit itself, and Adramalech quietly pulling the strings behind it all. Maybe. It's chaos, it's revelation, it's Black Clover at its absolute best. And worst. So buckle up, because we're diving deep into everything. Yami's contract, True Devil Union's return, Yuno's new form, and how all of this could reshape the final war. Let's talk about why these chapters might be the start of Black Clover's true endgame. But it's not all sunshine and mana bursts. There's some rough news mixed in too. A few moments in these chapters didn't quite land, and whispers around the fandom suggest Black Clover might be wrapping up sooner than expected. So while the hype is real, there's a bittersweet edge to it all. Black Clover is back with 3 chapters for a whopping 61 pages. This is, I believe, the 3rd time we've had a 3-chapter drop in Jump Giga for Black Clover, and it is without a doubt the most content-packed batch we've ever seen. There are a lot of hype moments, some good moments, but I want to start off with some likely bad news for the series. The Black Clover manga is very, very likely going to be finished within the next 6 months, as the magazine referred to the next issue as having the super climax battle with Lucius. This term, super climax, has been used with various other manga, and all of them ended within a handful of issues, and those were weekly manga. Not only that, but we know that after this recent Jump Giga issue, there's only room for roughly 4 to 5 chapters on the next volume before we need to go to the next volume, which makes it seem like the next volume could be the end point. With Giga issues typically being anywhere between 2 and 3 chapters, it makes it highly likely that we will be only getting 2 more issues of Black Clover. The winter issue in a couple months will likely conclude the Lucius battle, and then we would likely get an epilogue issue that will release a few months after that, and the spring issue of Giga. Again, this is just a likelihood. Nothing is actually confirmed, and we will actually be getting a special message from series creator Yuki Tabata this coming December. I actually have thought about this a lot and discussed it with fellow YouTuber Buzzard. Do you think there is still a small, but not close to 0 chance that we will still be getting much more Black Clover manga than the estimated 2 issues left? And I'll be discussing why I think that is possible later on in the video. There is so much to talk about with the fall 2025 issue of Black Clover. It's hard to even determine where to begin. But I do want to say that my thoughts are very much in the middle on these chapters, as it seems that half of the fandom thinks that these are the best chapters of Black Clover since it switched to Giga over 2 years ago. Others are seeing these chapters as incredibly rushed and see it as a nail in the coffin for the series, predicting an utterly terrible ending. While I am somewhere in the middle and I agree with a lot on both sides, I do lean more to the positive side here, but there are certainly plenty of negatives. This is definitely the most controversial batch of Giga chapters, and that's for good reason. And that all begins with the scene of Asta and Noelle's reunion. The reunion of Astelle was a highly anticipated moment that we've been waiting for dozens of chapters and over 3 years of real time. As Asta would suffer his initial defeat of Lucius in chapter 336, which released way back in the fall of 2022. Because of Tabata's hiatus and magazine switch, this would be the longest time we'd have seen the 2 of these characters separated. And this is important for legitimate shipping reasons. Asta and Noelle is likely the most mainstream ship in Black Clover. It is pretty blatant that Noelle is in love with Asta. And we are not quite sure how much Asta is into Noelle though, but there was a fair amount of evidence sprinkled here and there across the over 380 chapters of Black Clover that it would be likely that Asta was into her as well, and the series would end up with them together, and not the other popular ship of Asta and Mimosa. Regardless of actual romantic interest, at the very least, Asta and Noelle are great friends and close comrades. This reunion should have been well featured and deep. It wasn't terrible in actuality, but it was too rapid and jerky for me. Asta arrives, Noelle's about to chide him with a foul name, but then she stops herself and actually compliments him. This is actual development for Noelle, who was never confident in herself in acquiring Asta's love, so she shielded her feelings with beratement toward him, and it just immediately goes to Asta also convening with Mimosa, where he promises her that he will return, and then he gives Noelle anti-magic, activating her Valkyrie armor black dragon form. While the form looks absolutely magnificent, we see it do almost nothing. All she does with it is hold off more of the regular evolved angels, while Asta goes off to fight alongside Yuno. She doesn't even get any sort of big moment with this power, at least as of yet. And I think this was a missed opportunity, as the Calmer Demon's ability works better the deeper the bond. Using this power mechanic to make Asta realize how deep his bond was with Noelle, and notice the feelings he has for her, that would have been an amazing way to reveal it. But this not happening makes me think that there is some weight to the idea that he may not end up with her, because that almost seems like the obvious way to reveal, or at least add more to the idea of Astelle being a thing. Then again, him not giving Mimosa any of the anti-magic can be seen as more weight to Astelle, and this moment is actually built on a plot hole, as Asta clearly uses the Demon Dweller Sword to give Noelle anti-magic, but later on in the chapter, Yuno still has the Demon Dweller, and Asta has to take it from him, which makes no sense if he has it earlier in the chapter, unless if he somehow tossed the sword back to Yuno, or recalled it to him in between the scene shifts, and then returned it again to Asta. I don't see this as a big deal, it's a very minor plot hole, but it's just an odd mistake for a batch of chapters that Tabata and crew had 3 months to make, and I don't understand how an editor would miss this when the fans noticed it immediately. The next scene in this issue was a return to the Land of the Sun, another controversial scene involving the power scaling between the Paladins, the Ryuzen, and Lucifero, which I will address later on in the video. Because of Lucius's gargantuan combo spell, he can now take control of Paladins from far away, and he did this to Heath, who was the only Paladin in the Land of Sun not defeated by Asta's anti-magic, and then he forced him to evolve like the other Paladins, making him more powerful. He would then go on to defeat the Ryuzen. Now, we don't see all of them here, and we know Ichika is in Clover. I don't see Fujio here, I don't see Josu, but we do know that Yosuga was involved, as when he returned at the end of the scene to defeat Heath once and for all, he clearly had battle damage. And the brief return to the Land of the Sun was one of the brighter moments of these chapters, as we got to learn more about Ryu, the Shogun, as it was actually Asta who helped motivate and push Ryu in moments where he didn't feel capable. Though Ryu was magicless, he had Tengensu and was essentially the equivalent of a royal or noble in the Land of the Sun. But Asta was magicless, he had no other ability for most of his life, and he was a peasant. But Asta constantly pushed himself and never gave up, and that motivated Ryu to become a good shogun. Look at that, more evidence for Asta being capable of being Wizard King one day, if he was already motivating the Wizard King equivalent of other nations, and that Wizard King equivalent, the Shogun, already backs him. I just think this chapter would have been significantly better if Tabata slowed down the pace a little bit and gave Asta and Noelle's reunion a full chapter, and the return to Land of the Sun a full chapter as well. Or at the very least, give a few more pages to each scene. This leads us to the next major and controversial revelation of the issue, and that is Adramalech finally making a move. Adramalech was introduced all the way back in chapter 317 when Lucifero had just successfully partially manifested. He was so mysterious because he didn't talk much, he didn't reveal his power, and he didn't fight, and it would later be confirmed that he was working with Lucius. There were so many fan theories over the last few years, many attempting to answer the question of why he joined with Lucius. Would he double-cross him? Is he Asta's father? Well, he would make a return in this chapter, as Yami, Nak, and Ichika would struggle against the revived and evolved version of Paladin Morgan, whose dark and light magic was unstoppable. Enter Adramalech. Was he going to take them off guard? No, he was going to join them. See, Adramalech is bound by his very nature. The psyche of a devil is derived from pure emotion and entertainment. Following Lucius was boring. There was too much order. The rebellion against Lucius, though virtuous, was pure chaos, and so Adramalech wanted to bask in that chaos, and he offers Yami to become a host for him, and he admits that Yami would be the greatest host because he was a sacrifice for the Tree of Cliff-Off ritual and he attained a devil heart. Yami would accept, and now would have 6 horns and the other traits of Adramalech, and he would gain access to Adramalech's light magic, which was a surprise to some, but not to all, as he is a sun god in ancient demonology after all. With this added power and light magic, Yami would team up with Noct and Ichika to defeat Morgan, possibly once and for all. I don't think I need to say why this was controversial. A lot of people thought Adramalech would be serving some other evil, a third party, that would act to undermine Lucius. And even though he did undermine Lucius, it was to help the good guys, not to go against both the good guys and Lucius. Personally, I don't hate it, but I don't love it yet. However, this has the potential to lead to something absolutely massive, as why should we even trust Adramalech? Yami even refers to this move that he does as a gamble, but the title of the chapter is Foolish Gambler. This is Tabata basically saying that Yami's gamble was foolish, and with Adramalech laughing seemingly maniacally and saying that it will not be funny if they defeat Lucius, it leads to some very interesting scenarios that still leads to that third-party faction that will oppose both Lucius and the good guys. Or I guess it could happen. And it would be using Yami's strong body as an avatar to begin this. I'll talk more about this a bit, and how this can extend the series later in the video. People are again using the scene to argue that Lucifero was never power clipped and he's still by far one of the strongest in the verse, but I'll address that when I get to the power scaling segment of the video. Chapter 386 begins with another dud. We see Astelle and Mereoleona fight, and it seemingly is already concluded. This is very disappointing because Mereoleona used to be Astelle's pupil, so there was a lot that could have been done with this fight to explore more into both Mereoleona's and Astelle's backstory, and possibly learn more about the recent history of the Clover Kingdom. But no, it just ends. With Astelle and Morgan defeated, that leaves Morris as the only remaining paladin at this moment. However, we do not know if it is possible for them to return again, because they can regenerate. However, we would return later to Asta and Yuno's efforts against Lucius, with the Ultimate Wizard King pulling a Patri and creating a massive spell meant to attack the populace so he can get a couple sneak attacks in on them. Does a gargantuan ultimate magic where he combines a bunch of the magic he has. Side note, this is pretty disappointing that this is Lucius's ultimate magic. It's kind of boring. Hopefully, this is not his only ultimate magic spell. But luckily for Asta and Yuno, Mereoleona and Fagolion would come to the rescue, with Fagolion finally going Spirit Dive. He's still a fraud, video on that coming soon. But their combined power still would not be enough, and instead, they would bring in this brand new, never before seen character known as Leopold, who apparently always wanted to be as strong as his siblings and surpass them, and he finally reaches their level and joins them in destroying their gargantuan ultimate magic. Wait a minute, Lucius is holding his own against Asta and Yuno with his regular magic, but when he does not only ultimate magic, which is supposed to be the peak spell of a mage, but gargantuan ultimate magic, he doesn't think it will take out Asta and Yuno? Yeah, there's no way this is his actual strongest spell. I am expecting a lot more from him in the next issue. The pairs of Asta and Libe and Yuno and Belle would continuously develop their bond and union until they would merge fully, with Asta's 5th horn form returning the True Devil Union, and a brand new form for Yuno. This should be the equivalent because technically the same kanji is used for the Union and Spirit Dive, since they are both called Devil Assimilation and Spirit Assimilation, so it's probably true for both forms. So I don't know if this is True Spirit Dive or True Saint Stage. I'm not sure. It's not named, but it's gotta be one of those. The chapter leaves off with these two using their ascended power to take on Lucius once again. And boy, that is a lot that went on. I'm curious to see how the fight will go down, and if this is truly the end of the final battle. Now, before I get into the power scaling, I want to discuss my reasoning for why there is a chance we will be getting more than 2 issues left. The main reason for that being Adramalech. It really does seem like what he did with Yami is part of a greater plan. The only reason for the Paladins to come back so far is just so that Yami and friends could have a struggle against the evolved Morgan, and then for Adramalech to get Yami's perfect body. And this could lead to something like the Order of the Fly, which in demonology was an order founded by Beelzebub, in which both Adramalech and Ostroth were important members of. We are still to see a single image of Ostroth and Black Clover. It seems that all we know is that he has antlers for horns based on Lucius's Devil Union. We also have seen little of Beelzebub's true image, this being the only panel in the series, and it is just so out of left field for Adramalech to do such a thing just to have Yami defeat Morgan. I wonder if Adramalech is just a mole for the Order of the Fly. This could lead into a whole new arc, possibly a sequel series. I just hope it doesn't fully undermine Lucius as a villain if this is the case. Okay, now here comes the power scaling. I heard from so many people telling me that my takes over the years about Lucifero, the Ryuzen, the insane power progression of the final saga, that all of my scaling takes have been debunked from this issue. And I find it funny because it actually couldn't be further from the truth. There are actually statements and events in this chapter that only further prove that Lucifero's strength was far surpassed long ago. But let's go over some of these claims. The first is that the Ryuzen losing to Paladin Heath further substantiates that the Ryuzen are much weaker than Lucifero. Mind you that this is not a sound argument. It's a borderline appeal to absurdity. So the argument is the Ryuzen got destroyed by a single Paladin that couldn't possibly be strong enough to take on Lucifero. But that's a silly argument because how would the Ryuzen losing to someone much stronger than Lucifero mean that Lucifero was never surpassed by much of the cast? Think about this. It was confirmed in this batch of chapters that Ryu watched Asta fight Lucifero. He's also seen him fight Lucius in his first fight at the start of the saga. And Ryu himself is an expert fighter and tactician. Despite this, seeing the power of Lucifero, he makes a couple interesting claims in the Land of the Sun arc. The first, that Lucius is as strong as they come. Given Ryu's knowledge, this would mean that Lucius is at least as strong as Lucifero, and this is before he was getting stronger and stronger thanks to the purified Cliff-Off. And he thinks of base Lucius when he says this. The other statement is that the five-headed dragon is the biggest, baddest enemy ever, and this is in direct reference to its power, as it was in response to the Ryuzen wondering if they were strong enough to stop it. These statements are later substantiated by the claim that the Paladins are stronger than Supreme Devils. This is considered to be a general term, Supreme Devil, which could, and likely would, include Lucifero, who is himself a Supreme Devil. With these statements also supported by feats and other statements, like Asta and Libe being relative to Lucifero back in the Spade saga. Lucifero considered them a threat, but also he could not one-shot Asta when landing a blow. Essentially, Asta could damage Lucifero, even though it was minor, and though he would take damage from Lucifero, he couldn't one-shot him. That means that in some degree, Asta was relative. His attack potency and durability and speed were all low relative to Lucifero. But then it is stated that Asta and Libe got stronger in the 15 months since the Lucifero fight. Not only that, but actually it's stated that they were stronger than they were back then when they fought Lucifero. This is an implication that they were stronger than True Devil Union now. And their partial union is stated to be even more powerful than regular union. This would be a reasonable way for them to surpass Lucifero, 15 months of time of them both getting stronger and them finding a more powerful form than the regular Devil Union. And this is also just confirmed by the fact that Lucius absorbed Lucifero. Asta knows that he is using both Lucifero's physical strength and magic power in his base, yet Asta would go on to get embarrassed by the Ryuzen after this. This makes Heath stronger than that version of Asta, who is stronger than Lucifero, and thus this evolved Paladin Heath even more powerful. So if this Heath was already stronger than Lucifero, then got a lot stronger, the Ryuzen struggling against him literally means nothing for actually bringing Lucifero back in the power scaling discussion. The other controversial scaling moment was Adramalech. People think that because his light can destroy paladins and that Yami needed Adramalech's power to defeat an evolved Morgan, that means that Lucifero must be very strong because Lucifero must be stronger than Adramalech, because he's way higher on the rank. He is the king of the devils. But none of this really means anything. First off, the likely interpretation of this statement just means that Adramalech's light can destroy paladins. Paladins cannot be destroyed under normal means. It seems that Adramalech's light would be similar to an arcane stage type thing, where it negates the immortality of paladins. But that doesn't have anything to do with power, really. Just the function of negating their regeneration or immortality. Not only that, but it wasn't even Adramalech that did anything to the paladins. It was Yami with a demon soul pill and then using Adramalech's devil power. We know that in a contract that the total power between a human and devil, it's greater than the sum. Think of how Asta and Libe, they go black form or devil union. That power of black form or devil union is far stronger than just taking Asta and Libe's power and adding them together. Black form Asta or devil union is way stronger than just Asta plus Libe. If that were the case, then simply teaming up to fight Megicula could have proven at least a bit fruitful, but no, they thought they needed union. The function of the contract boosted Yami's power even greater than just addition, and Yami still needed help from here on out. He needed to work with Ichika and Nock to increase the power of that light to be able to be effective against Morgan. People are forgetting that Adramalech's light magic would be amplified by Yami's magic power and the demon soul pill. And also, let's not forget that Yami already dwarfed Lucifero's power prior to meeting and contracting with Adramalech. When Yami got the demon soul pill, he was able to blitz and one-shot a Lucius clone, and he didn't even have his monozone Black Moon active at the time that would naturally make his stats even higher. A lot of people try to make the claim that the clones are weaker than Lucifero, but it makes no sense. There's no actual evidence supporting it. Think back to the beginning of the final arc. The Clover Kingdom knew that Lucius had absorbed Lucifero. It's directly stated that he has the magic power and physical strength of Lucifero. They did an entire military briefing about it, and then Yuno goes to fight Lucius at the capital, but it would later be revealed to be a clone of Lucius. So that entire time, Yuno is fighting a clone who these people in the fandom think that that clone is much weaker than Lucifero, yet not only does Yuno or anybody else never question that Lucius, for whatever reason, is weaker than Lucifero, but it's directly stated by one of the clones that they do possess Lucifero's power. And it kind of makes sense logically for Yuno to have surpassed Lucifero. Like, Yuno's base power 15 months after the Spade Saga made both Adramalech and Yami shit their pants. Yet, he would go Saint Stage on top of that base power and clash with Lucius, and still need to sacrifice life energy to even defeat the clone. So Adramalech pairing his power with somebody strong in Lucifero does not mean that Lucifero is now all of a sudden top 5 in the verse again. And also, a lot of people don't want to admit this, but Adramalech could simply have gotten stronger than Lucifero 15 months after his defeat. Devils do get stronger. Their negative emotions give them high power potential, and devils actually feed on the mana of the living world. Also, Libe got stronger over 15 months training with Asta, and probably the other Black Bulls. So, Adramalech could be, and likely would be, stronger than Lucifero after 15 months. But we wouldn't even need to actually make that claim anyways because of my previous arguments. It just becomes a burden of proof for the other side, trying to say that Lucifero must be like top 5 in the verse or higher. But yeah, that's like debunking the Lucifero claims. I actually have a whole video of Lucifero that I'm working on, like just, scaling him to the final saga, because there's just so much that go against him being strong still. There's just so little evidence to actually support his strength being strong. But please do leave a like, guys, comment, subscribe. You can join my Discord or follow me on Twitter, link below. And hope you guys all have an amazing day. Peace out.